right here is a masterclass, right?
Yeah.
Number one is you have to build your compass. In order to get to a destination, you got to know which direction you're going. And I think for a lot of advisors, no matter what stage of the business that they're in, they don't have their compass tuned up the right way. So you find yourself building someone else's practice. You find yourself building a practice that you do not want to run. I've done it before, right? You find yourself working with clients that you never wanted to work with in the first place. So you have to figure out which direction that you want to go. That's the first thing I heard from you. The second thing that I heard from you is that there's a large opportunity cost by not having your operations in order, because a sophisticated client, particularly, right, is going to want to experience your product through operations or through a system or process, right? So it's like, what can I expect from working with you? And it's almost clear when you don't have those answers, right?
It is clear.
So the opportunity cost $25,000. That's just what they know.
Right.
How many clients did not give feedback, right? And they might have lost $150,000, $1 million, $500,000 because their operations weren't in order. So advisors, huge opportunity costs for not having your operations in order.
Absolutely. And I think it also was very humbling for this particular client because they thought they had everything dialed in. But if you're winging it, if you're making things up on the spot, and I've seen it, you really want to think about how you can change how you're showing up, because clients know when you're winging it. They know when you're making things up. So if you want to differentiate yourself from the other advisors that are out there, you can do that very clearly through your service model.
Welcome back to another episode of The Advisor Journey. I'm your host, Desarte Yarnway, and I'm here with a special friend, Cameo. How are you?
I am doing well, Desarte. It's good to see you, and it's great to be here.
It's so great. So we both live in the same city.
We do.
And it's taken time to see Cameo in person. But nonetheless, I'm so excited to see you here. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast.
Thank you for the invitation. I was really looking forward to today's conversation.
So for context, for all the advisors that are watching, I've worked with Cameo in multiple capacities. Advisors that have been on this show have worked with you to make their firms more operationally efficient. Work together, Onyx Advisor Network, you work with our advisors to make sure that they can buy back some of their time to do what they do best, which is sitting in front of their clients. Now, Cameo, for those who don't know you, why don't you give them a brief introduction?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, I manage Atlas Park Consulting. We are a fractional COO and operations strategy agency where we rescue our clients from what I call operational chaos. These are growing advisory firms who need more infrastructure and systems to really help them scale their practices. And been doing this under my own umbrella for almost 7 years, after over 20 years working in the wealth management space before I went independent myself.
Amazing, amazing. So I like that word rescue. And at every stage, every juncture of your firm's growth, I feel like there's a point where you have to be rescued operationally. For the advisors that are watching this show that are breaking away, they just need to be rescued mentally to know that they can do this.
Right.
For those advisors that are in this scale phase where they're growing really rapidly, there becomes bottlenecks that allows them to go slower.
Right.
It forces them to go slower because they just don't know how to take in all the clients at once. And then bigger firms that are adding headcount, they also have these operational inefficiencies because now you have more people that are supposed to carry out a process.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just hear from you, like, what are the most common pitfalls that you see when an advisor invites you in to sort of clean up their mess or rescue them from their operational chaos?
Yeah, I think you outlined it really well, Desarte. When you're breaking away from an established institution that has told you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, you're entering into a whole new ballgame. Well, now guess what? You are in charge.
Yeah.
You have to run the ship. You got to build the ship. And so that can be intimidating in a lot of ways versus an advisor who maybe was working for a private wealth management firm and wasn't really happy with how the firm was being run and decided to go independent. They are used to being in the RIA space. So what we often do is really understand where our clients are coming from a physical perspective, but then also the mentality around what it means to be an independent advisor and how you're now actually going to need to make a lot of decisions regarding your practice and how you want to grow your practice. So we always start with where are you at? Because we got to deal with that head trash sometimes.
Yeah. Can we talk about head trash?
Yeah.
I was actually walking my dog on the pocket canal, right? And I got a call from an advisor, and they're about to go independent. They're like days away from receiving that state registration so they can begin to onboard people here at Altruist, right? So it gives me a call, and his whole process is so complicated, right? So how do you help with that headdress to allow breakaway advisors specifically to know, like, they don't have to go and try to replicate the firms that they have come from? Because I feel like that's one hurdle that a lot of breakaways have. Independence means you can do it your way.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what I often do with clients is who are breaking away is really thinking about what type of firm do you want to build? Independent of anyone else, your colleagues, other people that you've seen, how do you actually want to build your practice? And then let's work through those things. And then also let them know that there's a difference between being a business owner and being a practitioner.
Right.
You are exceptional in your technical knowledge, your ability to do portfolio analysis, all of those pieces, but you are now taking on a new identity as a business owner. And it's a whole another skill set that we have to work through. Once the advisors understand that and feel comfortable and confident that they can make these decisions, then it's only up from here.
It seems like this is more than operational work, because you said the word new identity, and that kind of, I felt that, right?
Yeah.
Because largely you used to be an employee. You know, being a business owner is on your mind, your clients, how you're going to grow 24/7. Can you talk us through that process of helping somebody like accept the new identity that they've chosen for them?
Yeah, it's a process and it's not immediate, right? You think about you've been an employee for 10, 15, 20 years, and now you have to move into the entrepreneurial mindset and framework. And so it takes time. What helps to exercise that muscle is to actually make decisions for your business, figure out where you want to go, and get comfortable being uncomfortable making these decisions. That's what's going to help you get to the next level. What I often do with my assessments is I ask my clients, where do you want to be in the next 24 months? Where do you want to be in the next 5 years? And we take baby steps to help them work through those uncomfortable pieces so that they can get their practice to the next level. Now, I mentioned a lot of times you're comfortable doing the client work, right? The financial plans, the portfolio analysis, the retirement planning, but making decisions as a business owner is a little bit more challenging. It takes a little bit more time.
It's kind of funny that the answer is get more reps, get more repetition. You know, because,
Yeah.
you know, I come from a sports background, and you would get better by practicing more,
Yes.
right? So for the advisors that are listening today, it's making those decisions, right? It's doing the uncomfortable things. One of the biggest problems I feel like we hear on this podcast is like, how do I grow? So the advisors come on and they're like, I did one thing over and over until it worked, right?
Yeah.
And those are the repetitions that you often don't hear, which spin that operational flywheel, because you've now attracted your client. You can put them through the process, right? And then you can see for yourself and get the data points that work for you or the areas that you need to adjust.
Absolutely. And it's necessary. You've got to get those reps in, and you can't skip that process. You can't outsource that process. In the very beginning, you have to be very clear on how you want your business to run. So taking the time to figure out what those onboarding processes should be. What is your client experience? What is your client journey? How do you want your clients to feel at every stage of working with you? It's so key. I remember a SEC registered firm approached me last year, and they had the whole notion of, we want to get more efficient. We are meeting way too often. We have no visibility of client actions, and we're struggling. And I asked them, well, what prompted you to reach out to me? And what they said is they had a prospective client who was interested in working with them, right? They said, we like your team. We understand how you want to serve your clients. But when they started to ask questions around, well, how long is the onboarding going to take? Who's my point person? How long is it going to take to transfer the assets from one custodian to the other? Who should I reach out to when I have these questions? And the team couldn't articulate it in a way that made the prospect feel comfortable. They missed out on $25,000
Wow.
in annual fees because they couldn't articulate their onboarding process. So it's key to figure out, how you want your business to run and put those systems in place.
Okay, so I just want to highlight this for the advisors that are listening. Okay. Couple key points that I don't want us to gloss over because I think that right here is a masterclass, right?
Yeah.
Number one is you have to build your compass. In order to get to a destination, you got to know which direction you're going. And I think for a lot of advisors, no matter what stage of the business that they're in, they don't have their compass tuned up the right way. So you find yourself building someone else's practice. You find yourself building a practice that you do not want to run. I've done it before, right? You find yourself working with clients that you never wanted to work with in the first place. So you have to figure out which direction that you want to go. That's the first thing I heard from you. The second thing that I heard from you is that there's a large opportunity cost by not having your operations in order, because a sophisticated client, particularly, right, is going to want to experience your product through operations or through a system or process, right? So it's like, what can I expect from working with you? And it's almost clear when you don't have those answers, right?
It is clear.
So the opportunity cost $25,000. That's just what they know.
Right.
How many clients did not give feedback, right? And they might have lost $150,000, $1 million, $500,000 because their operations weren't in order. So advisors, huge opportunity costs for not having your operations in order.
Absolutely. And I think it also was very humbling for this particular client because they thought they had everything dialed in. But if you're winging it, if you're making things up on the spot, and I've seen it, you really want to think about how you can change how you're showing up, because clients know when you're winging it. They know when you're making things up. So if you want to differentiate yourself from the other advisors that are out there, you can do that very clearly through your service model.
Okay, so let's talk about that service model, because I think, it's a very buzzy thing. Everybody says, oh, my process takes this long, right? But sometimes when you peel back the onion a little bit, advisors really don't have a process. They really don't have an ideal client target, right? They're like, oh, $1 million? I can work with you too.
Right.
When you think about your service model, right, or your operational process, what are some tenets? What are some things that are like table stakes to give your clients a great experience?
Yeah. So one of the things we do at Atlas Park Consulting is we've created a methodology called the CORE method, and that's client onboarding and retention excellence. And it really starts with understanding who you are as a business owner, what kind of business you're building, and then how you want your clients to experience your firm beyond just the financial planning. So you want to think about this from the perspective of, before they even sign the engagement letter, how are they connecting with you? How are you making it easy for them to have that discovery call? Then what happens post-discovery call? How are you communicating with them? What are you covering in the discovery call that's putting them at ease and making them feel confident that they're making the right choice and working with you, because it is a very big decision. Post-discovery, what's the follow-up look like? The fortune is in the follow-up. And if you don't have things dialed in to continue to communicate that we are the best choice, then you can lose clients in that framework.
Yeah. No, I love that framework. I love mental models. It makes it easy for me to remember, right, in the
Right.
conversation, and I'm sure it makes it easy for people to follow along. All right, so I want to just put all this on the table, and I want to walk me through this process as if I'm the advisor, right? So the first part is like discovery. I'm an advisor. I want to serve people in tech. I want them to find me via social media. Now what?
Okay. So one of the first things I'd say is you probably want to get a little bit clearer on your value proposition.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is so that you can confidently tell other people what it is that you do, including your network. From there, I'd say get very clear on what the pain points of that ideal client is experiencing, right? And then you want to figure out what your messaging should be so that when they're in social media, when they see your material online, they literally stop.
Right.
Because you've hit on the pain point so strong that they now want to know more.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. I feel like advisors do a good job of telling people how great they are, right? But we do a poor job sometimes of telling people that we see them, right? And I think that's the differentiator between fast-growing advisors and advisors that are just kind of meandering a little bit, right? I've been in a place where, it's like, why am I not growing, right? And it was often because I wasn't talking about my clients or ideal clients to them enough. And those are the pain points that you're talking about, right? Like, hey, you probably have this issue with taxes, or have you ever paid a big tax bill because you just exercised some stock? Like, these are some things that you should consider, right? And when you do that, I feel like clients feel seen and your opportunity to work with those clients raises exponentially.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you said seen. We all want to be seen and heard and understood. Advisors can really differentiate themselves when they step out of their advisor hat and look into their clients and what they're experiencing. You can then customize an onboarding that really fits their needs and making them feel seen and heard and really creating an even stickier relationship at the very beginning. I think a lot of advisors skip over that part, and then you can make sure that your operations really models that throughout the engagement.
Okay, so step 2, I've now clarified my value proposition. I know how I need to talk to my prospective clients, and they schedule a meeting with me.
Yes.
Okay, let's go. What's next?
So, what I would suggest is to have an agenda in advance of that discovery call. What are 3, 4, or 5 points that you want to cover? Now, this is discovery, so you want to make it very easy for your prospective client to have a conversation very openly with you around their challenges, their pain points, and their goals. Once they feel comfortable connecting with you and sharing, then you have the opportunity to ask more probing questions like, what prompted you to reach out to us today? What are you experiencing that makes you feel like you want to work with a financial advisor? Have you ever worked with someone before? What was that experience? So that you can take all of that data and really customize how you can serve them even greater than they've been served before. It also puts people at ease, right? We do a lot of talking, but the more listening and active listening we do creates even deeper connections and stronger relationships. So if you're talking too much, stop it.
Yeah.
And listen more to your end client and really listen to what they're telling you, and you'll get a lot of insights from that.
No, absolutely. 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason, because you're supposed to listen twice as much as you talk, right? So I wanted to ask you, what are some things that advisors should be definitely gathering from an operational expert perspective in that onboarding meeting? Oftentimes, you have advisors that are heavy on the information side. In that discovery call, they're like, put all your information in so I can give you some value. And then you have advisors that are a little looser, like, hey, I just want to figure out if we are a good fit.
Right.
Right. So from your perspective, what do you think are some table stakes or a sweet spot for advisors to sort of hit on in that first meeting?
I think in those 2 examples, you have advisors who may be ready to do a draft financial plan for the client. So there's a lot of information that they'll need to get. And then others, it's more of a casual, let's get to know each other. One of the things that you want to think about first is what services are you offering? Are you doing just financial planning? Are you doing, are you managing assets? What do you need to facilitate whatever deliverables that you're going to be doing for the client? But I think at that stage, it's really about getting to know them as individuals. You might collect things like maybe a tax return, maybe some custodian statements to understand, the accounts that they have out there, confirming the assets that they have. But keep it really framed in the notion of what do you need right now?
Yeah.
Not everything.
Yeah.
Because if you ask for everything right now, you're going to overwhelm your clients, and they're going to shut down, and they're probably going to not respond to your emails for information. So I often recommend is to break it up into several requests. What do you need right now to get started? And once you get that information, then you can ask for the next batch.
No, that's a great recommendation, because often I feel like you lose people in the process if you ask for too much.
Yes.
Overwhelmed, not going to call you back. I don't know you from anywhere.
Yeah, just ghosting you.
Yeah, and then it's done. But then when you're too casual, you end up, first of all, the client may not be serious or a good fit. And secondly, you have to go back and get all of that information later, right? So there's no right answer, but I do think that on every onboarding call, some sort of value given, whether they work with you or not, is important.
Absolutely. And if you bake that into your process, if you go into the meeting telling them, there's going to be certain pieces of information that we're going to be asking of you, then it gives them the chance to really sit and marinate on that direction that you've provided and get comfortable. And because they may have to go and find this information, right? We can't assume that it's just readily available. People may have to go and find information. So you bake it into your process, but that requires you to have thought about it, not in the meeting.
Right.
Prior to the meeting.
Okay. Now onboarding isn't done. So you talked about fortune being in the follow-up.
Yes.
When I started in the industry, we were prepped. It takes 15 touches to convert a client right?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? And I know you use a lot of automation in your process, but talk to us about that.
Yeah, so it's getting harder and harder to win new business. People are less trusting. In my opinion, I feel like we live in a trust recession. And so you really have to figure out what your touch points are going to be with those potential clients. How do they find you? Are they on an email nurture list that you may have set up through automations? Are you putting out newsletters and content? Are you writing articles? How are they finding out about you? And are you really speaking to your pain points, or maybe they were a referral in, which definitely helps with the conversion. But you want to really pinpoint how you are uniquely positioned to help solve the problems of your ideal clients and let them see who you are as an individual. Be authentic with who you are, not just all your wins, right? Especially on social. People also want to see some of the challenges and the flaws that we've experienced as professionals. That helps to build a much stronger human connection and building stronger relationships. Because if you're perfect all the time, I come in the room and you may judge me, right? And I don't want to work with someone who's going to look down on me. I want to work with someone who really understands me and wants to help me.
Yeah, I love that. It's in this age with AI, a lot of fake stuff on the internet. I feel like people are looking more than ever for authenticity.
Yes.
Whereas, you circle back 15 years ago, like filters fake, dress it up was like the thing, make it look nice, right?
Right.
And now I think that people want authenticity, and authenticity leads to trust.
Yeah.
To bake that into your process though, like how does an advisor do that without losing sort of the credibility
Yeah.
from their prospective clients? Because it's such a delicate balance to say like, hey, I'm human, you're human. Let's be two humans and work together.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I might know too much about my advisor at this point.
Yeah, there is a balance. And I think one way that you can do that effectively, especially in the discovery process, is by sharing stories, sharing different things that you've experienced. Maybe there's a commonality with where the clients are and where you've been that you can help to bridge that gap. One of the things that I often do with my clients and even my colleagues is I let them know that there was a time I struggled with networking. I had 5 people in my network when I was laid off for the second time. And that's something that other people can really relate to, right? Who hasn't been laid off, or if it hasn't happened yet, I pray it doesn't. But that's a very relatable experience that has helped me build stronger connections with people. So for your advisors who are listening, think about some experiences that you've had that you would be okay and comfortable sharing with a prospective client that can let them know that, hey, you're human just like me. You've had challenges just like me, and help to build a stronger initial relationship.
What was the E at the end of that core?
Excellence.
Excellence. Talk to us about excellence.
I'm really big on excellence. Sarte, you already know when it comes to operations and running a business that's operationally sound, is you want to deliver what you're doing in excellence, in the spirit of serving your clients at a very high level. So when you adopt excellence in your onboarding, from start to finish, you're going to make sure that you're doing all the things that you need to do from an administrative perspective, from a custodian perspective, and also from a client and custodian perspective. Then you make sure that all the boxes are checked and clients know, wow, this firm got it together. Like, I'm really covered. And that's really embodying the spirit of excellence in what you do with your clients.
I love that. I love that. So core, advisors, remember that as you think about your onboarding and how to create a delightful experience for your clients. To me, my personal flywheel is like delightful product. You want to make sure that your thing that you're selling is actually good, right? And if you have that delightful product, then you can get the clients. You get the clients, you can get revenue. Revenue leads to more growth, maybe internally. You do that over and over and over again, right? So everything you said in terms of thinking about what firm and what product you want to put out there speaks to this entire process.
Absolutely.
And I love the mental model.
And to your point of that flywheel, the ending of the core or retention excellence, right? When you do things in excellence over and over again and you get those reps in and you get better and you create those bliss moments for your clients, guess what? They then turn into raving fans and probably will refer you to other people. How would that affect your bottom line if you had a system in place that ensured that your clients were referring you on a more consistent basis?
Yeah. That's amazing. I want to talk about just tools.
Yeah.
Now, we're in the age where tools are popping up left and right. AI, everybody's experimenting with the tools, right? And I know that you have a set of tools that you like to use just out the gate, right? What tools should advisors be thinking about as they try to make their process more efficient and really buy back some of their time?
Yeah. So when we work with our clients, we're really technology agnostic. So teams can come to us with a variety of different technology that they're using. Our biggest thing is on your workflows, your processes, and the strategy. So before we tell you, go and buy some new tech, let's see how you're fully leveraging what you already have. Two core pieces that you absolutely want to have in place are your CRM. It's the hub. It's the heart, really, of your practice. And when you have that tool built out and have it integrated with your different other technology suites, really makes a difference. And the other piece is really having a strong contact or calendaring system so that you can connect with prospective clients. You can have those meetings with existing clients in a very seamless way. Living in this digital world, the experience has been elevated to the point where you got to think about more details than just people meeting in person. So those are the two things I'd say. Get those dialed in very strong, and then you can add on from there.
Okay, so I want to talk CRM for a minute.
Yes.
I actually got an email the other day from a CRM that I use in another business, and it was like, you're only using 10% of this of this CRM's capabilities, right? And I think that a lot of advisors, whether they use any of the industry favorites, right, they're probably only using
Tip of the iceberg.
a little bit of what this CRM is meant to do. Now, one of the things I remember from working with you is like, I didn't know this could do all this. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
didn't know this could be automated to the point where I can set my process and let it be handled. So when you talk about CRM, like what are advisors leaving on the table? Because I feel like they're just taking notes, putting names, right? And maybe saying we close this account or not, right? So talk to me about just the capabilities that advisors might have already and just aren't using.
Yeah, so I'll go back to the example I was telling you earlier about that client I was working with that lost that $25K in annual fees client. They were using their CRM as a glorified Rolodex, a digital phone book. They were not leveraging the calendaring system. They were not leveraging the task management, nor the project management, none of that. And so if you're an advisor listening to this and you're only using your CRM as a glorified Rolodex, there's more functionality that you can leverage. And when you build out that tool, when you start really using the workflows or building out workflows, will really accelerate your ability to get more of the right things done for your clients. And even more importantly, being able to delegate. That is one big pain point that a lot of my clients face. They want to delegate, but they don't know how because nothing is in the CRM. There's no tasks. There's no real rhyme or reason to how they can get things done.
Yeah, and when you say set it up, are you saying like you complete a step and automatically other tasks get pushed out to you? Talk to me about that. Because there are advisors probably in their car, in their office, listening to this, like raising their hands like, yep, that's me. This is a phone book for me, right? So set it up.
Yeah, I think it goes back to understanding your business model and understanding how you want to leverage this tool. So when I say set it up, I will break it down and say, how do you want your contacts to be entered into the CRM tool? You can have no rhyme or reason and things just go in there, but you want to have a framework in terms of name, contact information, email address. What are all the core components for your contacts that should be set up? And then you train the team on how that information is then either imported or manually input into that contact information. So that's what I mean by set it up, is getting really, really granular. Your onboarding workflows, what does it look like to walk clients through working with you, having those process steps actually documented and in a workflow in your CRM so that when a client comes in and you're ready to walk them through the process, you hit a button and all of those process steps come through. When you figure out all of those, let's build it, then you can start thinking about automations, which is what we all want, right? You can't jump to automations without having a process. So thinking about all those things in advance, getting the tool built out, and then that'll allow you to do even more with the tool.
Yeah. I can see the emerging advisor listening to this podcast and they're thinking like, I want to jump to automations.
I see it all the time.
And I can see the emerging advisor just not taking enough reps to know what they want to automate.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's almost that advisors are sort of in this conundrum when it's like, yes, I want to automate because that will save me time, but I haven't even got enough at bats to know what needs to be automated or not.
Right.
And in the process of that, you find that they just never automate, right? And they're manually inputting a lot of stuff. So I do want to talk about automation, but first I really want to just hammer this point in, like get the reps, collect the data, right? And envision yourself as your client.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big piece here, right? Like, what experience would you want? And we've all been to a doctor or maybe a tax office, right? Or worked with a professional, and you're like, that didn't feel right, right? So I think if you look at it from that lens and you envision yourself on the other side of the table, you can think through an experience and then begin to take those steps to quote unquote set it up and automate that process.
Absolutely.
So now that we're at that automation piece, what tools are we using and what are some best practices to get that done?
Yeah, so best practices, I'll keep it simple and think about your calendaring system. You might be using one of the popular tools out there. What do your clients need to have in order to have a virtual meeting with you, a Zoom link, other information? Maybe there's text reminders that are set up. So start there and build out the tool with your end client in mind and think about all the things that you would appreciate having, reminders, emails, 24 hours in advance. That's what I do with my system, as well as making sure that everything that my clients are going to need to have a successful and exciting call with me, I want to make sure that they have it. So I would start there.
Okay. This is the advisor journey, and one of the things that we love, like we pride ourselves on here at Altruist, is serving the modern advisor. Typically, the modern advisor, they're using technology, they're automating a lot, they're trying to save time through technology, right?
Yeah.
With that being said, I know you've worked with a ton of firms. Like, what have you seen, or what are some characteristics of your highest or fastest growing firms? Because I'm sure that everyone wants to kind of learn from these firms. But what are they doing that sets them apart and allows them to acquire clients pretty quickly and efficiently?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I would have to frame it from the point of those who are starting a firm, those who are growing a firm, and then those who are scaling a firm. So those who are starting a firm, they're really thinking about how they can put their footprint in the space and get in front of those ideal clients and thinking about what they want their experience to be. At that stage, they're probably very passionate. They've decided to start their own firm, right? Who isn't passionate at that level? So really thinking about what you want your end client to experience at that point. Now, if you're growing a firm, right, it's usually more than just you at this point. So you got to think about your people. You're inviting people to come help and serve with you. Your people are going to need instruction and direction on how to serve your clients because they're an extension of you, basically. And I see a lot of advisors not taking the time to really train their people and doing this kind of trial by fire, expecting people to know what it is that they should be doing. And client service begins to erode because you're not setting them up for success. And I have a couple of stories that I could share around that. Now, when you get to the scaling part, okay, you've got some good systems in place, good infrastructure. You wouldn't be able to get to the point of scale without having those things in place. But maybe there's some gaps in maybe training. Maybe there's some technology integrations that need some attention because as you grow, that CRM that you started out with may not be what you need in this scaling phase. So there's a combination of decisions that you have to make from working with clients, but then also working with teams and making sure that they have everything that they need.
Yeah, I have questions on each of those things.
Okay.
All right. So the first one to me strikes me as like your marketing.
Yes.
Quote unquote, right?
Heavy.
Marketing isn't always buying ads, right? But it's like going to seminars or networking groups, right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're really encouraging these starters to figure out what is their way to attract their ideal client. Is that correct?
That is key. Figure out who your ideal clients are, find out where they are, and then position yourself as the best solution for them to work with. Your operations and your processes, it's going to be there. You want to create demand so that you now have to go in and figure out what your ongoing processes are going to be. So don't spend a whole lot of time when you're starting and investing in a whole lot of tech, because I can almost guarantee you that something's going to shift, something's going to change, and you want to be smart about your financial resources at that stage. Definitely have, your basic CRM and a calendaring system and maybe some other tools. But your key thing is marketing. Right. People need to know that you exist, and they need to know that you're the best choice for them.
There's a breakaway advisor or someone that's going to start a firm that needed to hear that. They are probably investing a ton of time in the tools and forgetting that their job is to work with people. So I wanted to really get clarity on that. The second thing that I would love to ask is about the people, right? Obviously, as a business owner, you want to lock arms with people that are going to build great things and hopefully do it for a very long time.
Yeah.
But in this age of technology, it seems like you can do a lot more with a lot less. So when is the right time to really start looking at people as an extension of yourself as a financial advisor versus leveraging more tools, keeping your costs down, and building a more profitable firm?
Yeah, that's a great question to start. I think what leaders need to think about is the type of firm that they're building and how they want to grow. And if you built out your workflows and your processes and you're leveraging your tech pretty strong, but you're realizing there's things that you want off your plate. Right. I don't want to do this anymore, and I can't automate it. We can't automate everything. At that point is when you want to start to ask your question, okay, well, who can I bring on my team to help me take care of these things that I want off my plate? Maybe I want to spend more time doing business development and meeting prospective clients versus being in the office handling some of these administrative tasks. So that's where I would start. Figure out what you want off your plate, what you can delegate, and then start to build in training in SOPs, which are standard operating procedures, to train that new person when they come on board.
Yeah, that's a whole operational lift in itself. Yeah, but a lot of advisors are trying to use stuff like AI and use maybe virtual assistants or cheaper options to fill that sort of demand and delegate without breaking the bank, which in the past, you had to spend a lot of money to get top tier talent that would align with who you are to get the job done. So I just feel like we're in a very interesting time and space where an advisor can choose to have human hands or can choose to leverage more technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a balance there, right? You want to think about if you're leveraging AI or you're leveraging the tech, is it creating exceptional experiences for you? Is it helping your clients have a much greater enjoyment in working with you? Or are you creating confusion?
Yeah.
Or are you automating errors, which is reducing your client experience? So cheaper and faster isn't always the best. You want to figure out how you can leverage those tools in a responsible and prudent way so that it gives you the outcome and results that you want. And if AI or the tech isn't doing it, and these are things that you want to get off your plate, there's no shame in bringing in human capital, human talent to help you get these things done. And remember, you get what you pay for, right? So if you try to cut corners thinking that, okay, this is going to be the best thing, but it creates more havoc and confusion, was it really worth it?
Cheaper and faster is not always best. I wrote that down mentally. Last question on the later part or later stage that we talked about, which is like a scaling firm, usually a bigger firm, right? It seems to me that if you're at that stage, you should probably build in systematic audits to your operational process, something that you should do very frequently. Do you feel that way about firms at that stage?
Yeah, firms who are at that stage of scale and have a dedicated operations manager at minimum, or a COO on board, which is Chief Operations Officer, should at minimum have those audits. But what's been interesting is I've seen a lot of firms who have grown very, very fast have not invested in the people. There is no operations manager. There is no chief operations officer. And so then those responsibilities fall to the leaders or the partners. Something's got to give. And often, transparently, it's operations that falls to the bottom of the ladder. And that is a dangerous place to be because you're growing so fast, but you haven't really invested into the longevity of maintaining your operations. So if you're an advisor listening to this and you don't have an operations person and you want to continue to grow and maintain the viability of your practice, you got to get an audit in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. Lastly, before we close, you got a ton of gems. Right? And any business can take these gems and have something to think about, but specifically for the financial advice business, what are a couple of things that you want to leave advisors with? If they weren't able to pick up all those gems, or if they need to go back and listen to it more slowly, like at the end, let's
Yeah.
just put 3 down right here. Leaving this interview, you should probably review 1, 2, 3 of what you're doing right now. Like, can you give us those 3 things?
Yeah. So earlier this year, I co-authored a book called Beyond the Broker, Navigating Financial Advisory Independence. And we wrote the book to really help individuals who are breaking away or wanting to start their own practices to figure out what success looks like for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the first things that I would tell people is don't let anyone else tell you how you should build your practice, what it should look like, what types of clients you should work with. What would make you happy? What would bring the most joy to you as an individual? You may have family. What are those things that are going to help make you successful? That's one of the first things I would say. The second thing I would say is get really intentional and systematic around your marketing plan. Don't skip that. We want to create demand for your services. And without a solid marketing plan and executable strategy, you will not have clients.
Yeah.
And you will not be in business for very long. We don't want that to happen. Once those 2 things are in place, think about how you want to grow. The world is your oyster, right? But you got to be very clear and systematic around how you want to grow, and then bringing in the right strategic partners to help you get to that level of growth. So if it's hiring a marketing team or hiring a consulting practice like myself, to get your operations on board, helping you find the right people, whatever it is, you want to get really methodical about it. And then enjoy the fruits of your labor, because you will find that version of success, but you got to do the work.
I love that. Clarity, demand, and growth. Recipe for success.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Cameo. Where can people find you
Yeah.
if they want more of these gems and more of this advice?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website, atlasparkco.com. I'm on social media, Instagram, atlasparkco, and you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Cameo Roberson.
Love it. Thank you so much again. And thank you all for listening to yet another episode of The Advisor Journey. Be sure to share with other financial advisors, schedule a demo at altruist.com, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This is Sarte Yarnway and Cameo. We'll see you again on the next one.
Thank you so much, Sarte.
Thank you for listening to The Advisor Journey by Altruist. Brokerage-related products and services are provided by Altruist Financial LLC, a member of FINRA/SIPC. Results may vary. Altruist and its affiliates do not provide tax or legal advice.